Yeah, there's been a lot of signs recently that Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is really starting to lose it. Done a couple reports on Trudeau recently, and one news piece today saying, and the hits just keep on coming. Loblaw's lobbyists, this is a grocery store chain, lobbyists from this store, it's revealed attended exclusive Trudeau fundraiser, and poof, they were granted $12 million for the giant food company to get new freezers. Hard not to see these events as connected. There was some reporting on this for about the last week or so. This very controversial $12 million deal with this grocery store chain, but the new update today is this fundraiser, which we didn't know before. It's just reports today, and some members of parliament, actually multiple members of parliament, commenting on this, that prior to Galen Weston's company getting the $12 million to fix their fridges, Loblaw's lobbyists were hanging out with, they were just so happened to be hanging out with Justin Trudeau. These lobbyists were hanging out with Justin Trudeau and senior staff in the environment minister's official at a political fundraiser. This kind of insider politics stinks. So Justin Trudeau giving away more Canadian taxpayers' money, complained about Trudeau doing this. Many Canadians have complained about Trudeau giving money, millions of dollars, to the Clinton Foundation back in 2017. He announced he was giving millions away to a group that is part of the Clinton Foundation affiliate. He also gave away another $50 million of Canadian taxpayers' money as a charity gift to impress some liberal comedy show host from Comedy Central, Trevor Noah from The Daily Show. It was actually on Twitter. Even CBC, who Trudeau's party has bribed to generally give favorable coverage, even they had to somewhat criticize Trudeau for this tweet to Trevor Noah, pledging another $50 million of Canadian taxpayers' money as a gift to this charity to impress these other liberal elites. So this is just the latest in a trend of Trudeau giving away millions of taxpayers' money. Lobbyists attended Trudeau fundraiser before getting grant for refrigerators. The owners of Loblaws, among the wealthiest people in Canada. These are some of the wealthiest Canadians, and they are getting millions of dollars, additional extra bonus money from Canadians and Canadian taxpayers going to some of the wealthiest people in the country, Trudeau's friends, for this green initiative grant as part of getting new refrigerators. The excuse was that there was some kind of environmental reason behind this. A quote that I've brought up a few times, and you may have seen it on this channel or elsewhere, that kind of ties in with this, is when Trudeau brought up back in 2013. This is actually before his election. This is one of among many early warning signs about Trudeau. Even before the election, he was asked what country he admires most, and Trudeau responded that it was China that he admired most because of their basic dictatorship. This wasn't a trick question. They asked Justin Trudeau, what country do you admire most? He could have picked any country, and Trudeau, of all countries, chose to say China because of their basic dictatorship. This was the quote from 2013. Justin Trudeau said, quote, "There's a level of admiration I actually have for China because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say, we need to go green. We need to start investing in solar." So out of all countries, Justin Trudeau admires China because they're a dictatorship that can force their citizens to take on these very unpopular green initiatives. Very interesting, as Trudeau's just passed this carbon tax, and now they're not talking about Trudeau passing a plastic tax, which is also a very unpopular proposal as well. And this was put together by Environment Canada, who paid external experts to write it. So they basically bribed so-called experts to write a report suggesting that we tax Canadians even more with a new plastic tax. And considering that Trudeau is one of the faces of these neoliberal elites, this new wave of globalist politicians, people like Trudeau and Macron, and some of these relatively younger neoliberal globalists, Trudeau and Macron, those types of politicians. Obviously, they are very unpopular recently. It seems like they have failed. Like many of these globalists, Macron being a former Rothschild banker, Trudeau having support from George Soros and John Podesta and these other globalists. They were looking at them as some of the younger politicians to kind of push the whole globalist agenda. And Macron is not nearly as popular as they wanted him to be. Of course, there's these ongoing protests in France, and a lot of that has to do with these new taxes. So it's just odd for me for Trudeau, of all things. His popularity is taking a major hit. He's involved in many different scandals, and he's still trying to push this plastic tax. It's interesting. He's also said it's almost like I brought up in a previous video that it's almost looking like Justin Trudeau's given up already on the next election, admitting that he's going to likely lose the next election and he's going to blame Russia for this. He's already pointing to Russia as possibly interfering with an election that hasn't even happened yet. But Trudeau, it seems like, is doing nothing to really actively get any new supporters or muster up any kind of real support or anything. He's just going to blame Russia for an election loss, and he's still pushing these extremely unpopular globalist policies like those made by Macron and others. So interesting that's going on. Potential plastic tax, carbon tax is very unpopular as well. You would think that Trudeau might be changing his strategy, but he's not. He's doubling down on these forced policies. He doesn't care what the people think, and even as he's facing a new election and he knows that he's unpopular, he, of all things, just wants to push these globalist policies, even if he looks like a dictator. And I guess he doesn't care how that comes off. Before, he had the media bribed enough that he could get away with it, but it seems like there's been so many things breaking that it's impossible even for the paid-off mainstream media in Canada to ignore this completely. This newest Loblaws scandal, just adding to the SNC-Lavalin scandal, and a couple of these signs that Justin Trudeau is just becoming unhinged in general. He's kind of losing it. He made a pretty big mistake at a very recent Ottawa meeting. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau confused Japan with China. Interesting. I guess he had China on the mind as he admires them so much, but he was meeting with the Japanese Prime Minister and he called Japan China at least twice during this meeting. He corrected himself eventually on this, but I'm sure you could imagine if this was Trump or some President Trump or some other politician, the media would never let up on that. So Trudeau, he was criticized for that, but liberal media kind of gave him a pass. Again, that's amid this SNC-Lavalin scandal, and the Loblaws lobbying scandal was just starting to break at that time. So maybe Justin Trudeau really is starting to lose it, and that is another sign. There was this also unhinged rant that ties in with some of the resignations with SNC-Lavalin, this multi-million-dollar bribery scandal SNC-Lavalin's been developing for the past few weeks. Really been escalating. There's been a number of major resignations from the Trudeau government, and one member of Trudeau's party did resign and said that Trudeau freaked out at her and went on a big screaming rant against her, saying, this was the quote here, they're saying this Liberal MP said that she had told him, she said that she was resigning. She had told Mr. Trudeau that she was resigning. Mr. Trudeau had said that he was concerned that her decision would be associated with the SNC-Lavalin affair, this bribery scandal that Trudeau is currently under fire for, but did not raise any concerns about race. The Liberal MP had responded telling him that she hoped he could one day understand the impact that political life has had on her family. She said threats to her safety had been made against her in the past. And then she says, quote, he was yelling, Trudeau started yelling at her. He was yelling that I didn't appreciate him and that he'd given me so much. So Trudeau started screaming at her when she was saying that she was going to resign, saying that she didn't appreciate him and he had given her so much. Again, multiple signs that something is going on with Trudeau amid these scandals. He's not handling it very well, it seems. This is the most recent report from today. A few other details they're giving about this fundraiser. And there's one other connection, just one individual named here as attending the fundraiser, a major member of the Liberal Party of Trudeau's team. They're saying two Loblaws lobbyists. Two of these lobbyists, one of which helped steer the company towards a controversial $12 million federal grant to reduce the energy consumption of their refrigerators, also donated frequently to the Liberal Party and attended a partisan fundraising event with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Environment and Climate Change Minister Catherine McKenna and two of her senior officials also met with one of the lobbyists representing Loblaw companies. Soon after the grant program had opened to business, her office confirmed. So Environment and Climate Change Minister Catherine McKenna also met with these lobbyists, talking about this plastic tax, one of these very unpopular policies that Justin Trudeau is still trying to push on behalf likely of these other globalists that he's representing. It's definitely not for Canadians. Canadians are very much against this. He's already been criticized for similar types of policies. Just interesting that Catherine McKenna was one of the lobbyists that met one of the individuals from Trudeau's team, Environment Climate Change Minister Catherine McKenna. It's one of the individuals that met with these two lobbyists. They're saying in this article, this previous article talking about this recent proposal for this plastic tax coming from Environment Canada, and how Environment Canada paid these external experts to suggest that Canadians should pay more, even more in taxes, already way overtaxed in Canada, but we need to pay even more for plastic tax, says Environment Canada, after paying these external experts. This project, they note here, was also overseen, funded, and coordinated by Environment and Climate Change Canada. In other words, this report is the product of Catherine McKenna. So Trudeau's climate change minister, Catherine McKenna, paid off, bribed these experts to get Environment Canada to make this suggestion that the government needs to raise taxes even more for plastic. So that is coming from Catherine McKenna, just trying to cover that up, essentially saying that it's a proposal, it's coming from the experts, but it's basically Trudeau's party has bribed experts to give that result. That's coming from Catherine McKenna. Catherine McKenna, also the person who met with these two grocery store lobbyists in this $12 million freezer deal. It's also pushed as some kind of environmental program, and obviously is really just a kickback, pay-for-play exchange given back to Trudeau's friends. Really, they're just masking it as another environmental program. So interesting comparison between the two, McKenna being involved and them both being the environmentalism being used as a front for this pay-for-play politics here by Trudeau. Saying McKenna's office said that the meeting with the lobbyist, this is the claim, this is the completely unbelievable claim by Catherine McKenna, Trudeau's climate change minister. She's saying her office said that the meeting with the lobbyist was on another topic. It had nothing to do with the $12 million that they were just so happened to be giving them, apparently. That's what we're supposed to believe. It was on another topic. They said plastic waste. So even that, I guess, raises questions, considering this is the other thing that I'm bringing up right now with Catherine McKenna, this shady money going to experts to raise even more taxes. Well, that's apparently what they were talking about with these Loblaws lobbyists. So an even more, it's just strange how much crossover there is between those two things going on here. Saying Loblaw companies also denies that the grant, Loblaw companies also making the claim, they're denying that the grant for the fridges was awarded because of lobbying or preferential treatment. They're saying it has nothing to do with the lobbying. And the lobbyists in question say they never lobbied the government over the program on behalf of the company. They never lobbied them for this program, they're claiming. But the connections and money flowing between individuals representing Loblaws and the Liberal Party, quote, doesn't pass the smell test, argued NDP ethics critic Charlie Angus, saying, quote, This is a company that has huge capacity, huge tentacles, huge lobbying, he said in an interview. Their owners, again, very, very rich, among the richest people in Canada, and Trudeau just handing over even more millions of dollars from Canadian to his rich friends. Quote here, another quote here reads, they're very comfortable with the Prime Minister, Loblaws, that is, this company is very comfortable with the Prime Minister. They're attending fundraisers with the Prime Minister and senior staff, going to fundraisers from the Minister of Environment's office. So this is a very comfy, cozy relationship for the Liberals. To say Loblaws won this challenge fair and square is ridiculous. The Liberal government has been criticized for weeks over its decision to hand public money to Loblaw Companies, one of Canada's largest corporations, to help make refrigeration systems at hundreds of its markets more efficient, they say. Another critic has said that the Trudeau's Liberals, he's criticized them for giving handouts to the wealthy and well-connected. Other members of opposition calling for Trudeau to cancel the $12 million grant. McKenna, Trudeau's climate change minister, has said that Loblaws won the grant out of the government's $500 million low carbon. They just won the grant out of the government's $500 million low carbon economy challenge through a competitive process driven by her department, said McKenna, and that it will help slash the company's annual carbon pollution. So again, they're arguing, well, it's green, so it's good. It doesn't matter if it's corrupt, I guess, is the excuse that they're trying to pull here, saying that it will slash the company's annual carbon pollution by roughly a quarter, while the company pays for 3/4 of the cost. On the day of the announcement, just close off here saying, day of the announcement, she posted a video of herself on Twitter. McKenna speaking to an executive from the grocery store chain, vice president of facilities, promoting the grant while noting that it would substantially reduce pollution equivalent to taking more than 50,000 cars off the road in a year. So that's a great initiative, McKenna said in the video posted on April 8th. A few more details. They say a review of lobbying and political donation records, as well as attendance records at Liberal Party donor events, shows that while Loblaws was awaiting the results of this competition, it retained Liberal-friendly lobbyists friendly to the Liberal Party, pushing its message in close proximity to powerful people in Canadian politics. This is common practice for large companies in dealings with governments of all political stripes. It's also common for government officials to accept meetings with stakeholders to discuss issues of public policy and ensure they're informed about the consequences and impact of important decisions. Summit Strategy's senior advisor, who's also a former Liberal political advisor, Joanne Dobson, and consultant Meredith Logan are both registered to lobby the government on behalf of Loblaw companies on a range of topics, including the Environment and Federal Environment Department. So you got former members of the Liberal Party directly now working under Loblaws as lobbyists. They've also given thousands of dollars to the Liberal Party, according to fundraising records held by Elections Canada. Dobson gave a combined $2,886 between 2012 and 2018, while Logan gave $3,175 between 2014 and 2018. Records show both spread their giving over dozens of donations. They've also attended a large Liberal donor appreciation event in Ottawa on June 18th, 2018, according to the Liberal Party's attendance records of these events. A Hill Times story covering that event says Party President Suzanne Cohen gave a speech followed by Trudeau's wife and then the Prime Minister himself. That donor event, they said, happening a few months after the refrigeration grant contest opened, was also attended by several senior staff in McKenna's office and the climate change minister's office. Attendance records also showed this included Director of Policy Jamie MacDonald, Senior Policy Advisor Michaela McQuaid, Director of Operations, and the Director of Parliamentary Affairs. Dobson had communicated with McKenna months earlier on March 27, 2018, on behalf of Loblaws, according to lobbyist according to the lobbyist registry, where the minister was joined by McDonald and Chief of Staff Marlo Reynolds. They say McKenna's office confirmed this record of communication was an actual meeting between 3 individuals. That meeting was held just 2 weeks after expressions of interest had opened for business to compete for a slice of the grant program. That was on March 14th, 2018. But McKenna's press secretary said the meeting was, quote, regarding plastics, not the grant program. Quote, attendees specifically discussed the federal government's commitment to a national zero plastic waste strategy and to discuss actions and commitments that Loblaw can make. She wrote in an emailed response to questions. Kim says Loblaw is one of 54 successful recipients thus far. They were selected through a competitive, rigorous, and fair process led by Environment and Climate Change Canada officials. The $12 million grant was, quote, among the projects proposed in the process that would achieve the most cost-effective emissions reductions. We need to be working with all sectors and Canadians across the country to cut pollution, she wrote. I do have this full article linked in the video description. They have a few more details, just summarizing, going a little bit more into detail about the relationship between Loblaw's, their lobbyists, and the Liberal Party, Trudeau's Liberal Party. Again, it's just the most recent of a number of scandals, a lot being exposed having to do with Trudeau lately. The SNC-Lavalin scandal continuing to escalate. There's also the reopening of the probe into Trudeau's private island trip with Viaga Khan, which John Kerry was also attending. U.S. politician John Kerry went on this private island trip with Trudeau as well. Talked about that in some recent videos. So it's a lot to catch up on with what's going on with Trudeau. There is an election going on in Canada later this year, and really looks like Trudeau is not handling things going into that very well, but we'll continue to follow everything related to Trudeau, these various scandals, and how that proceeds into this upcoming election. So let me know what you think. I do have a link in the video description to my Patreon account, patreon.com/realityreader. Support the channel over there. Even $1 or $2 makes a huge difference. I also have a PayPal link, paypal.me/realityreader. Both links in the video description. And there's a link to the original article you can look at in full. Leave a comment and tell me what you think. I'll follow up soon. Thank you.